Hi there, I'm Fred Trost, calling together the weekly meeting of the Practical Sportsman Club for Thursday, September 9th, 1999. Hunting season has already begun with the early goose opener on September 1st. Now on this show, we're going to review the upcoming 1999 hunting seasons in Michigan, talk about whether hunting is going to be as good as the DNR says it is. Stay tuned. Well, this is the first show of the 1999 fall television season. It starts my 19th consecutive year on public TV in Michigan. Whew, that's a long haul. The format that I'm going to use, at least I'm starting out with this season, and I plan to use for the duration of this TV season, is one that's a little different than I've done in the past. There's two things that I'd really like to accomplish. One is I would like to encourage you to critically think about the things that you pick up in the media, not just the outdoor media, but the regular news that's about the outdoors and hunting and fishing and guns, because a lot of the times I've found that you're not getting the whole story. We need to think about the other side of the story in between the lines. The second thing I want to do is to inform you and show you how easy and how fun it is to participate in hunting, fishing, and the shooting sports. As you may know, I've been harping on it the past couple years. Participation in hunting and fishing has been going down nationally. Fishing has been going down since 1991, about 10%. Hunting has gone down 17% nationally. That's participation. Now that's a big problem. So we're going to look at a lot of different news stories and a lot of trends, because this downward trend in participation in the outdoors has very serious effects on TV shows like this one, on magazines, on sports shops, on the whole outdoor industry, and I think really on the fabric of society. But on this show, let's start off with something. I told you we got to critically think about things that you read about in the press. You've read about the Rompola buck. Mitch Rompola claimed that a year ago he took a world record buck. Well, he says he didn't really claim that. But look at that picture of the buck. Well, take a look at this photo that I recently got. I have the card here of the people who raised this buck. When I say raise it, this is a pen-raised buck. This is a 5-year-old around Cadillac somewhere. This buck looks strangely like the Rompola buck. We're not saying that they're related genetically, but just it kind of puts a seed in your head, to think, well, maybe that deer did come off a farm. Well, one guy who's been really dogging this issue in the past year has been Eric Sharp, the Detroit Free Press. I pulled this off of the internet. This is a story that he wrote on August 19th, said, "Question remains, what's the story with Rompola?" Well, the story is, as Eric verifies here on the 19th, this deer is still not entered with Boone and Crockett, the National Registry for Record Deer, nor has it been recorded with Michigan commemorative bucks. Now, Rompola said he was going to do this. Everybody was saying, oh yes, it's going to be certified. Well, it still hasn't been. Also, this is what Eric said in his story. Rompola refuses to communicate with reporters. An acquaintance said he told friends that the hide from the world record deer rotted and he had to throw it away. The hide rotted on the world record deer? Well, that eliminates certain types of testing that could be done on that hide. Now, on September 2nd, Eric came out with another article, 1,000,000 to 1 shot, not even close. He talks about the statistical likelihood of being able to bag a buck like that. Here's one thing that Eric said in this. Rompola has told friends he had his deer x-rayed to prove it wasn't a fake, although he won't produce the x-ray. So the hide is gone and rotted. The x-ray, nobody knows where that is. The conclusion by Eric Sharp is, and this is a guy who has done more research, I think, on the Rompola buck than any other outdoor writer, extensive research. Eric says, let's make this the last word for a while. As far as I'm concerned, there is no world record Rompola deer. That's by Eric Sharp. I don't know if I'm going to make it the last word. I still want to do some checking out on this game farm buck that looks strangely like Rompola's so-called world record. Well, let's take another look at reading between the lines, trying to figure out what an article that's been widely dispersed throughout the state actually means. Dave Ritchie wrote a rundown on August 22nd in the Detroit News where he says, fall hunting forecast bright. I thought when I read this, I thought, oh, well, cool. Maybe I haven't been paying attention. Maybe things are more optimistic than I thought. Well, the quote here in this article in the second paragraph by Pete Squibb, who's a biologist for the DNR, says, quote, sportsmen should experience superb hunting. Bears are up with some sows producing 3 to 4 cubs. Canada goose numbers are high. Turkey populations are the highest ever. Deer numbers are excellent. Rabbit and hares are stable, and ruffed grouse have reached the peak of their 10-year cycle. Given normal weather, hunters can expect good things this fall. Well, that kind of warms the cockles of my heart as a hunter, thinking that's great. This looks like a really good season. But, you know, I have to wonder, why in the past 10 years have hunter numbers dropped 17%? Is the hunting really this good? Does bright mean a lot of game will be taken? A lot of hunters will buy licenses? Or does it mean it's going to be a bright fall? You're going to have to wear sunglasses because it's going to be so bright. I mean, I don't know. When I got looking between the lines, and I hope you start to read articles like this between the lines. Okay, let's keep in mind that the key words here are sportsmen should experience superb hunting. And let's take a look at the bear season, because right in this article it highlights bears. It says, bears are up with some sows producing 3 to 4 cubs. Well, you got to put something in perspective here. Bear hunting is not open to all hunters. Most of you out there who have applied for a bear permit have gotten turned down. The only thing I could find on the website, the DNR's website, in 1995, 25,000 applicants applied for 5,600 permits. So you see right there, 80% of them didn't get permits. In 1998, last year, 6,281 licenses were issued, 1,512 bears were taken. That's 24%. Now, anytime you get hunters taking 24% of a success rate, that is really bright. But think of the 80% of the applicants that didn't get permits. Is that bright? I don't know. I think you gotta take that with a grain of salt there. The bear season is something that is closed to many people. It's like the elk season. Do you think that you can say that elk season in this state is bright? It's great elk hunting? Well, I tell you, with the elk, they issue about 300 permits a year. They're going to issue less than that. About 1% of the people who apply get a permit. So the elk season, it wasn't brought up in this article, but that's another one that only a relative handful of hunters have access to. Well, let's go down and look at another one on here, Canada goose. Pete Squibb said Canada goose numbers are high. Now, Canada geese are high. There's no doubt about that. They're quite a predominant game bird. But keep in mind a couple things. The hunting is primarily on private land. The public land is very restricted for hunting down in the Allegan area and some of those public areas. The private land is where it's at, and it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher to find private land to hunt geese. Many hunters are finding that they have to pay the landowner, pay the farmer, which really isn't a big problem because farmers are not having a great time of it in this economy. This fall, how is the hunting this fall? I'm going to bring a report to you next week on the goose season. It really was not a blockbuster for most people I talked to. In fact, some hunters are alleging that the DNR has been trapping geese, shaking eggs, and decimating the goose populations in their areas because they didn't see hardly any on the opening day. So I don't know, there don't seem to be as many geese around, although the Canada geese numbers overall are high compared to what, the 50s or the 60s when you hardly saw any? Now, let's take wild turkey. Now, this is sort of like bear. Pete Squibb said, DNR spokesman, turkey populations are the highest ever. Okay, the populations are the highest ever, but can you go turkey hunting if you want? We're talking about the fall hunting season right here. In 1998, there were 5,700 hunters. They got 2,298 turkeys for 40% success rate. That's a great success rate. However, if you did not get your turkey hunting application in this past summer, you are out of the deal. You cannot hunt. And by the way, 1998 was 5th out of the past 8 years of fall turkey hunting. There were 4 years where twice as many turkeys were taken in the fall as were taken last year. So maybe turkey hunting is outstanding in this state, but we're still not at the level where it's open to all hunters. You have to put in an application, be drawn, and all hunters by any stretch don't get a permit. Now let's take a look at, well, let's take deer. Deer season, deer hunting. It says the deer numbers are excellent. That's the only quote that was in this article. The deer numbers are excellent. There were no other quotes about the deer population, except the regulations this season, we're going to go into this on a future show, are complicated, more complicated than ever. There are many permits you can get to hunt deer in different areas, but a real crisscross of regulations and rules and many changes. So what makes a good deer season? If you see a lot of deer, if you yourself get a deer, if the state harvests a lot of deer, or if you have fun deer hunting. I think that's the best way to look at it, but I'm not sure that's what the DNR is looking at. Now here's one, rabbits and hares. Rabbit hunting is something that we do oftentimes in the winter. Even though it's open, it's a very liberal season, September 15th through the end of March, mainly done after the snow falls.
Well, that's the darndest thing.
Pete Squibb said, quote, rabbits and hares are stable. However, Dave Ritchie wrote later in the article, DNR biologists say cottontails are available in good numbers wherever they live, but snowshoe hares are down again this season. So actually, the statement that rabbits and hares are stable, according to DNR biologists, really isn't true. Snowshoe hares going down, cottontails, you find them where they live. See, over the historical view of hunting in Michigan, it wasn't until about 1970 or so that predators were given a lot of protection. Hawks, owls, coyotes, foxes. We have many more of the predators out there than we used to, back in the days when really there were lots of rabbits. So to say that the rabbit season or the hare season is bright, it's going to be pretty good, but it's always pretty good if you find the rabbits where they live, of course. Let's take a look at ruffed grouse.
Yeah, the bird must be
Ruffed grouse hunting is something that is tough to capture on videotape for us because these ruffed grouse are so fast. The DNR says, through Pete Squibb, ruffed grouse have reached the peak of their 10-year cycle. Now, do you just accept that? Do you accept that there is a 10-year cycle? There is a lot of controversy in grouse hunting circles as to whether there is a 10-year up and down cycle. It seems like there used to be before we instituted all the protections on predators. But the question of whether there is a 10-year cycle, that's not conclusive. But reading the article, you'd say, oh, well, they're at the peak of their 10-year cycle. However, in southern Michigan, the southern third of the state, grouse are spotty. And they are not all over, and they may have peaked their 10-year cycle, but you need to ask where, in what part, and I think we're talking the Upper Peninsula. Now, here's the biggest problem that I see. We have just gone through the different species that were in this fall hunting forecast that is bright. You know what's missing? Yeah, does it dawn on you that there's a critter that's missing here that used to be the king of game birds? I'm talking about the ring-necked pheasant. Ring-necked pheasants were the big game bird in this state for many decades. Back in the 50s and 60s, they started to slide. The 70s, they slid further. How far have pheasants slid? They weren't mentioned in this article about the fall hunting forecast being bright. No mention of pheasant at all. And you know what really blows my mind? I went to the DNR's website to look up pheasant to see what it said about it. They have a list of critters here that you can get information on through the Wildlife Division. I went to birds. It had American bittern, woodcock, bald eagle, common loon, common tern, hairy woodpecker, downy woodpecker, loggerhead shrike, peregrine falcon, piping plover, we should be raptors, ruffed grouse, scarlet tanager, waterfowl. No pheasant. The DNR does not even list pheasants on their website. They didn't mention pheasants in this fall hunting forecast. Now, let's read between the lines on this, gang. If the pheasants aren't even being mentioned, can we say that the fall hunting forecast is bright? I think it does not bode well. And like I said, hunter numbers are down about 17% nationwide. I will be getting statistics on the Michigan numbers to find out where we're at on some of this game, some of the permits. But remember, bear is limited, elk is limited, turkey are limited to advanced reservation only. The rest of the species, you got to subtract out pheasant. I don't know what to say about this bright hunting forecast, but you should think about it. Maybe it's not as bright as we'd like to believe. Now, if you want to hunt year-round, 365 days a year, you want to shoot all the birds you can shoot, there is a bird that has no limit. There are no special licenses required. You can shoot as many as you want right here. It's the old clay pigeon. We call them birds in the shotgun sports. Clay pigeons are available in vast numbers, as many as we want, as many as you can shoot, and the clay sports have gone up. Even though hunting has gone down somewhat in participation, the shooting sports have gone up, and we're going to be doing more of that on this TV show. I have gotten into it a little more. I'm going to do a little bragging right here. This is a trophy I got, a huge trophy for winning a sporting clays tournament up in Gladstone, up at Orchard Hill Sporting Clays. Did this about a month ago. It was a Wild Turkey Federation shoot of the Bays de Noc Wild Turkey chapters, and I got 89 out of 100. I had a shoot-off against another shooter, and I got the trophy. I won a gun. I won a big marbles knife. Pretty cool. This activity of shooting these birds is available year-round. Now,
the average hunter should be able to break 50 to 60% of these, and somebody might think, well, gosh, if I only break half of them, I can't win anything. It's Lewis class scoring. It's completely geared towards spreading all these prizes, and there's literally hundreds of prizes, over the score levels for we locals here who really enjoy an event.
Now, I told you that the shooting sports is fun. Now, Mike Stewart has come up with a way to distribute prizes even to the people who don't win in the Lewis class scoring system. It's sort of the shotgun shooter's answer to door prizes.
Every clay bird that you break, you get a ticket. They go in a big barrel. And after the award ceremony, we just keep drawing names out of that barrel until all the stuff is gone. This is probably the most fun event that you can ever go to.
Pull. Now, when you read and hear things about the outdoors, no matter who's saying it, be practical. Read between the lines. Think about the logic of what's being presented. Don't just blindly accept everything as fact, because it may not be. And remember, the best thing you can do for the future of hunting and fishing is to get outdoors yourself. Use the resources that are available and share the experience with somebody else. That's being a practical sportsman. See you next week.
Take them?
No, wait.
Take them.